Okay, no reason to be sorry. That's what the president's going to focus on. And that's why he's got that legal team to go focus on that.
All right, let's bring in Kellyanne Conway, counselor to the president, President Trump. What do you make of that latest tweet, Kellyanne?
I could not agree more. One of my favorite tweets, because this is exactly what we're saying every single day here. Look at what just happened last week while basically everybody was focusing on the nonsense. The VA choice legislation, $5.2 billion to make sure that care for our veterans is not interrupted. This has been a big problem for so many of them, and they can access private care, and there will be reimbursement for that if they can't find quality, timely care through the VA, which most say they can. The right to try legislation passed. Dodd-Frank, what is that? That helps consumers make more independent choices for themselves in the marketplace. That was an overreaction of overregulation after 9/11. And I have to say, this president focusing on, he's getting Josh Holt back. The second time in 17 days we've had Americans brought back here and reunited with their families. The economy could not be better. All-time low unemployment numbers among African Americans, Hispanics, an 18-year low among women, and the economy just continues to grow. The tax cuts are in place. The regulation is lower. And this president on the brink, again, of bringing conversation and coordination between North Korea and South Korea. For the first time in 18 years, a North Korean official will be coming to America on the way to New York.
Kellyanne.
So much is happening that has nothing to do with this phony baloney talking about the 2016 election. May I say one thing? Every time people talk about this phony Russia collusion, the word collusion doesn't even have legal significance. Every time it's written by responsible people, every time they talk about this, they are talking about the 2016 election. And so we don't want to talk about the 2016 election. We work here. The president's focused on the 2018 election. He's assembling his team for 2020. But every single day he's passing policies that positively affect American lives. I'll talk about that all day long.
You're right. I mean, the amount of time spent on relitigating the 2016 election is incredible. But moving forward to the things being accomplished, just back to North Korea briefly, we got a tweet this morning from the president saying the vice chairman of North Korea is heading to New York. Can you confirm anything else for us about how firm that June 12th date might be? A lot of good indications, but do we know anything more?
What I'll tell you is what the president has always said and made very clear in his incredible letter last week, which I thought covered the waterfront of how we got here, what was not going to happen, and what could happen. And they acted immediately, I believe, according to that letter, in a very positive fashion. The president sent over 2 delegations, one for logistics and one for more diplomatic purposes, that are on the ground making the logistic preparations for June 12th. But as the president said, it doesn't happen June 12th, it could happen thereafter. What he's been able to do in such a compressed short amount of time is nothing short of historic and remarkable. Again, as we've always said, with moving the embassy from Jerusalem, having historic tax cuts, pulling out of Paris, this president keeps the promise of other presidents. Now, this president, in that letter last week, I thought really got some kinetic energy going. Folks all of a sudden said, wow, this may actually not happen, and if we want it to happen, then we're going to start moving. And ever since then, practically, North Korea, South Korea, and the United States have been making very positive moves. But let's see what happens, as the president says. If he's satisfied, it will go forward. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is, just while we're still in the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton, or that person who lost the election and never should have, she had said, I'm going to put the coal mining out of business. Coal miners will be out of business. And she went, that usual scowl. Guess what? President Trump has presided over 84,000 new jobs for loggers and miners. And I want to look every single one of them in the eye today and their family and say, good for you. Go ply your trade. Go work in this country doing your craft. 84,000 jobs. That's in addition to the over 300 and some thousand construction jobs, 300 and some thousand manufacturing jobs. Not only did coal mining and logging and industries like that not go out of business, but they're on the rise under this president's leadership.
Kellyanne, you mentioned Josh Holt. Just for folks at home, if they're not familiar with his story, he's the guy that was seen with the flag draped around him, his grandmother hugging him. He was down in Caracas. He went down there. There's the picture of him coming home. He was a Mormon missionary. He traveled to Caracas in June of 2016 to marry a Mormon that he met online while he was looking to improve his Spanish. They were both arrested and charged with bogus charges of stockpiling weapons. How did the president intervene to get him back home safely?
Well, you saw it take place in front of America in the Oval Office on Saturday night, and it was just so wonderful to see that for the Holt family, for the legislators from Utah who never gave up, who
Senator Hatch,
this story,
Senator Corker,
Hatch, Senator Lee, Senator Corker in the Foreign Relations Committee, Congresswoman Mia Love, who teared up when they were talking about Josh's family. And this is what happens under the president's leadership: the vigilance, the patience, the intervention. And I think it's such a fitting start to what was just an incredible celebration over Memorial Day. The veterans now, the military got a pay raise for the first time in how long, $700 billion plus in the latest budget for them, in addition to a pay raise. And then you see Americans coming home. It's just such great patriotism and cohesiveness.
Yeah, the 17th American brought home under his presidency from a ridiculous trumped-up charge or situation. Now, on the political front, some Democrats are lashing out at other Republicans for not coming down on the President of the United States. First, Adam Schiff, who I know you look up to, and then Representative Eric Swalwell doubled down. Listen.
At the end of the day, there's only one remedy for that, and that is you need to throw the bums out. As long as there's a majority in Congress that is willing to do this president's will, and as long as we have a deeply unethical president, there's only one remedy.
Well, I think Ranking Member Schiff's point is that if they are not willing to be open to having their minds changed about holding the president accountable, then their seats are going to have to be changed. You're actually worse than bums if you're not willing to stand up to a president. I think people are pretty fed up, and they want to see people to start to stand up to the president.
Throw them out if they don't stand up to the President of the United States. Do you agree with that?
This is the flailing that happens when you're an entire political party that seems to have no message for America, no positive message. They voted to shut down the government. They voted against the taxes. They voted against 21, many of them have voted against the 21 U.S. Circuit judges that have now been seated since President Trump became president. 1/8 of the circuit courts are Trump appointees. These are the folks who have nothing positive to say. They've been holding up a stop sign. They live on TV, especially Schiff, and you know it. And so this guy leaves the House every morning with his earpiece and his congressional button, and he does a lot more with the earpiece. Throwing the button, first of all, I'm not even going to dignify with the White House behind me, people using these slurs against their political opponents. They should be coming together on things like funding the military, on battling the opioid crisis, on making sure our veterans have that $5.2 billion to be sure that the care is not interrupted. But look at what so many Democrats and so many in the media, including a high-ranking Democratic former official here at the White House under President Obama, who's constantly attacking everybody on social media who works here. Look at what they did this weekend. They saw these pictures of two migrant, I suppose, children in cages, and because one of them tweeted it must be true, so they just retweet and retweet, and they have this shock and all reaction. And what was it? Those are pictures from 2014 when President Trump was a successful businessman in New York, when somebody else occupied the White House here. And all of a sudden they started deleting those tweets because it didn't fit their narrative about this president and the border. And that means to me that they didn't really care about the story about the migrant children. It didn't fit the political narrative. And you see that now with Schiff and Swalwell. It's the same thing. Just attack, divert, and deflect. They've got nothing positive to say. All those anchors should be asking them a simple question. Why do you come on TV almost every single day and talk about this Russian investigation, this phony collusion witch hunt? You don't talk about how the dossier was paid for. Dossier, by the way, let's review, a fancy French word for a load of junk and bunk. You come on here, they bark, they snark, all of them, about this president, and you know what? He will not be diverted, and discouraged from doing things on behalf of the American people. We're more secure, we're more prosperous because of him.
Yeah, we've seen that this morning. He's certainly not deterred. One quick reaction from you. Michelle Wolf, we saw her at the White House Correspondents' Dinner slandering Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Well, she's back at it, and she has a new show where she doubles down on that, saying, I'm not attacking her, I'm attacking her personality.
She says she has an ugly personality.
Yes.
Meaning Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Not even worth, I hardly saw that, but all I can talk about is Sarah. I love working with her every single day here at the White House. She does a wonderful job representing the president and speaking to America on what is a very fast-moving agenda here. The sheer velocity and volume that goes on in this White House of things that the president wants to work on. We just reviewed them this morning. So I hate to dignify it. I would just say, generally speaking, not about that woman, but generally speaking, I'm old enough to remember when comedians were funny.
All right, Kellyanne, thanks so much for being with us. Have a good one.
Thank you.
More Fox and Friends coming up.